with that, I'd like to stop talking and welcome Malcolm Nobbs, Chair of the Lights Board. Malcolm, please go ahead and unmute yourself, and thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Michelle. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, good. Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. Most of you know Lights, but for the benefit of those who don't, we are a charity that helps individuals with intellectual disabilities find tailored independent living solutions with one or two other people and making sure there's appropriate level of support for them. We believe that inclusive communities are stronger communities, and we advocate for those that don't have a voice. Besides helping families navigate the bureaucracy and putting budgets together, acting as a matchmaker and introducing potential roommates to one another, we also provide financial support of up to $25,000 per year to help offset the costs associated with independent living. Today, the Lights program has helped approximately 450 people annually and to explore housing opportunities. It has directly supported 90 people to move into independent living arrangements, with 64 of those families accessing Lights funding supports. And there are currently over 100 families actively engaged with Lights. Your participation tonight is making a real difference to individuals with intellectual disabilities and making our community stronger. So thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce you to our host, Cory, who is a Canadian restaurateur, chef, and the head of culinary development at the Cactus Club Cafe. Cory was born and raised in beautiful Brantford, Ontario. His interest in cooking started early when he would visit his family, and visit his Italian grandparents in Fort Erie. After graduating from Stratford Chef School, Cory completed an apprenticeship at Scaramouche Restaurant in Toronto. And Cory worked as a sous chef at Sassoni's in Melbourne in 2003 and as the chef de cuisine at the Drake Hotel from 2004 to 2007. In 2009, he was voted Best New Chef in Toronto by En Route and was the national spokesperson for Thermidor in 2010 and 11. Cory has since opened 3 successful restaurants, Harbour Room, THR & Co., and Flock. Cory has some helpers with him tonight, so I'd like to introduce Zoe, Alexis, and Erica. Welcome, guys. And now, Cory, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Malcolm. Okay, so my helpers, we're going to get busy tonight. If I miss a step, don't be afraid to shout out. I'm looking at you, Erica and Alexis. And I want to say, first of all, that it's a real pleasure to be here cooking with all of you. I've done a few of these over the years for different organizations, and each time is more interesting than the last. This is a very unique way to cook, kind of made possible by our friends at COVID. But it is a lot of fun seeing a lot of these faces, and really it's the only way we can do something like this. So it is really special. So thank you for having me, and I was really touched to be asked to be part of this. So it's an organization that I hope to work with more in the future as well. So this hopefully isn't the last time that you see me. So let's get cooking. This is going to be a busy hour. And when I submitted these recipes, I thought they were really summer appropriate, and they should be pretty workable within the hour. But I do want to point out that these recipes, use them more as templates than rigid sets of instructions. So this is risotto and it's a salad. These are 2 things that are born out of using what's in your fridge. So there's nothing in this recipe that needs exact measurements, exact cutting or proportions. So this really kind of speaks to the cook from your heart way of cooking, which is the way I like to work. So using, what's in front of you, a little bit of your common sense, and just cooking with passion. So if you miss a couple of steps, or if you forget to put a few ingredients in, or you haven't measured exactly, don't worry. There's nothing that can go wrong with these recipes if you're adding a little more or taking a little bit out. This is really just meant to be, kind of comfort cooking and very casual. So don't feel pressure to keep up, or if you're having trouble following along. But I do have some great helpers with me here today who will help keep me on track more than you, and I think I probably need it the most. So let's start by looking at a few of the things that I have laid out in front of me. I don't know how well this angle is, but I've got all my prep in front of me here. So for those of you who came in a little bit late, the first thing that I started with was dicing my onions and garlic for my risotto, and that's the most important step. So I've got a diced onion with my garlic in this bowl, and let's take a couple of minutes, just everyone start doing that. And at the same time, if you want to find a medium-sized pot, something with high sides on it, and let's get that going on low heat, because the key to a perfect risotto is you're going to take the patience and time to cook your onions and garlic for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're fully soft. We don't want to rush that step. So while that's happening, we can start doing a few other things. Now, this day is going to be really true to form like it is cooking in a restaurant kitchen, because we're going to be doing about 5 different things at once, from cooking the risotto, and then we're going to move over and make the 2 items that require a blender or a hand blender. And then we'll start putting together the salad. And while that's happening, we'll be stirring the rice and adding stock. Before you know it, the hour is gone and we have nothing to eat in front of us because we're way behind. Unless Erica keeps us on pace. Erica, I'm looking at you. Okay, so I have my onions and garlic diced, so I'm going to put mine in my pot that I'm heating up.
We need
So
oil or anything? Sorry, do you need
Yeah,
oil?
so you want about 2 tablespoons of oil or butter in your pan, olive oil or butter.
Okay.
And so I have my pan on medium heat. Medium is going to allow these to sweat without getting colored. What I mean by sweat is that they get soft, they let out all of their water, they get translucent, but they're not browning at all, and that's the key. And with that, I like to add a little bit of salt that just pulls some of the water out and helps those flavors meld together.
I
So
just
once
use
my
a
oil
pot.
is-
Sorry. I use a
Well, go
pot. Is
ahead.
that okay? Or should I use a pan instead? So I'm using the pot.
No,
for the onions and
so
stuff.
when you're making risotto, you want to use a small, medium-sized pot, something with high sides, because you do want to add a lot of stock, and you're stirring pretty vigorously. So if you're using a shallow frying pan, that's going to make it evaporate a little too fast.
So
So
is
you
this
definitely
size
want
good
it in
for?
about. I can't
That
see
size-
your size, but I would say you want something about 5 inches, like the size of a hand, for
Okay.
sides on it.
Okay.
And I have
so maybe
3
I'll
pots
switch.
going. I have 3 pots going in front of me. So one of them has the chicken stock in it because we need that to be hot. So I've got that on. I'm going to put that on low heat as well. We'll let that come up to heat, because when we're adding that stock, we need it to be hot. And the second pan is a pan full of water that I'm going to use to blanch my vegetables in. So I've got that heating up as well with a bit of salt in it. And now that my oil's hot, I'm going to go ahead and add my onions to it and my garlic. So this is going to sit happy now for about 5, 7, 8 minutes. We're not going to have to do too much else to it except stir it occasionally. And once we have that going, we can leave this be. Now we've got 2 items that we're going to use our blender for. So the first one we're going to do is this puree for the salad dressing. So this is a pistachio and basil and mint pesto. So really bright, really summery. And this is going to be the salad dressing that we spoon over the burrata on top of the salad. So let's skip to the other recipe here.
Cory, quick question. Am I putting
Sure.
all 6 cups of the chicken stock in the one of the other pot, another pot?
Yes, you are.
Can I substitute some dried basil? Because I used up my basil.
So your basil is the dried basil for the pesto.
Well, I have some, so it could be anywhere, really.
Yeah, let's use the fresh basil for the pesto. That'll be the best
Okay.
spot for it. The
Yeah.
dried basil we can substitute in the other.
All right.
So I'm gonna use a hand blender. So I'm gonna put everything I have into this little deli container with a hand blender. So I'm gonna start with the pistachios. So I've got 2 tablespoons of pistachios going in there. I have a good handful of basil and mint and parsley. I have my cheese, 2 tablespoons roughly, maybe a little more. And I put ice cubes in it. That might sound really strange to some people, but it does 2 things. One, when the pesto is pureeing, it helps it emulsify. But the other important thing, it keeps the pesto cool so the blades don't heat it up, and that preserves it being really nice, bright and green. And I'm going to put my olive oil in. My half clove of garlic, a little bit of salt, and juice of a lemon. So is there any questions so far? Is everybody following along?
I'm trying to. I'm
That's-
one person, whatever. So I'm
That's
trying
okay,
to do the
that's
chicken stock and
okay.
yeah.
It's okay. There's lots of time in this. So again, don't worry if you're not at the exact step I'm at. And if you read the recipe and you want to jump around, go for it. It's all going to work at the end. All right, so my onions here. Hopefully everybody has their onions in the pot now, but mine are about halfway done. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see the color. They're just starting to get a bit translucent, but what we want is fully soft, almost mushy, but no color. No color is very important because we don't want to see the onions when the risotto's cooked. They're just going to disappear and dissipate. All right, so back to this pesto. All right, pistachios, Parmesan, ice, olive oil, basil, mint, parsley, garlic, salt, pepper, and lemon juice. And with that, this is going to make a bit of noise here, but I'm going to stick in my hand blender and puree this. So we're going to do 2 steps of blending. So if you're using a traditional blender, you don't have to clean it out. We'll just put the other ingredients right in it, and that's okay. All right, so that one is done. So what we're looking for here, it doesn't have to be silky smooth, but what we want is somewhat emulsified looking. That's from the ice, and this is going to make for a really nice and creamy pesto. It almost has that appearance of cream being in there, or like an emulsified oil. That's from the ice in the olive oil emulsifying. And it's super green thanks to the ice we put in, so that's a good little tip. Check it for seasoning. And this is the point now. Don't worry about my recipe. Season this and add to it as you like it. If you think it needs more salt, add salt. If you think it needs more acid, add that. I think mine is pretty perfect, so I'm going to go with that. But this is dressing a salad, so you definitely want some acid in there. You want it to be a little bit sharp. But what you should be tasting is a big hit from the fresh herbs. It should be so fragrant. All of these summer herbs, you know, the parsley, the basil, the mint, these things should just be jumping out at your nose when you smell it. And you should be getting a little bit of that earthy nuttiness for the cheese. We got a big hello, everyone. Hello. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the second puree. So this one, we're going to flip back to the risotto here. So this puree is a little different. This is where we need some blanching. So does everybody have a pot of boiling water on the stove or close to boiling water?
No, I just have my onions and garlic and the chicken stock. I can't do 3 things at once.
Cannot do 3 things at once. That's okay. So we can, this doesn't necessarily need to be blanched. So if you have in front of you some asparagus like this, we want to cut these asparagus for 2 different things. One, we're going to be pureeing some of these. We're going to make a puree to fortify the risotto. And that's not really traditional, but I do that for 2 reasons. One, it gets a lot of flavor into the risotto. So if we're making an asparagus and pea risotto, I'll make a puree using peas and asparagus to fold in at the end. That's going to make it really luscious, really green, and really creamy without adding all the excess butter. But it's also going to get a lot of that pea and asparagus flavor in there. So we really want to taste that. So we're going to double up on these 2 ingredients. So if you take your asparagus, and we're going to use half of it for this puree, and we're going to use half of it to stir into the asparagus or to the risotto at the end. But if you take each spear, and the natural breaking point of asparagus happens when you just break the asparagus. So if you put a finger at the top, pinch the bottom, and you naturally break it, where that natural break is, that's telling you that this part is woody and this part is tender. So you want to throw away the part that snaps off. Or you can use it for a stock or a vegetable soup if you're making that. Now, when you're cutting it, I'm cutting mine on the bias. That means cutting it on an angle. And I'm cutting it pretty thin. I would say less than 1/4 inch in thickness. And on the bias, so about a 3/4 inch slice. And that is small enough that when I fold it into the risotto at the end, it's going to cook up really nicely just in a couple of minutes, stirring it in the hot rice. And it's going to have a little bit of snap to it, but it should be tender. So for the other handful of asparagus, we're going to make a puree out of that and the peas. But let's get back to my rice here. So I'm almost done with my rice. I'm going to turn my heat down to low because I want it to keep cooking for a little bit longer. And when you're making risotto, this is a dish that is best served right when it's done. It doesn't want to wait for people. You don't want to reheat it. So from the point of adding the rice, you're looking at about 20 minutes from start to finish if you're adding hot stock to your rice. Now, if you need to pause this, this is the stage you want to pause it after the onions are softened, but before you add the rice to toast it. So my rice is looking pretty good. I'm going to turn my heat right down to low because I'm not ready to add my rice yet. So if anybody needs a few extra minutes to catch up, this is the time. So I'm going to lower my temperature and we'll get back to this in about 5 minutes once we make this puree. Now, I've got a pot of boiling water here. If you don't have blanching water or boiling water on the stove, don't worry about it. You can make this using raw peas and raw asparagus in the blender and it's going to work totally fine. I have it, so I'm going to use it. So I'm adding half of my sliced asparagus to my pot. And I'm also
Cory,
going to add, yes?
Sorry, quick question.
Go ahead, Erica.
6 cups of chicken broth, that's for the risotto, right?
Yeah, the chicken broth
Okay.
is just for the risotto, yeah. And you
Yeah,
want to
'cause
be
I have
warming that up, Erica.
Yeah, because I have it on the stove right now, and then I have the onions and garlic in the other
Perfect.
pot.
Yep,
Okay, thanks.
that's it. So you just want to be keeping that stock warm and we're going to be adding that to the rice pot. And so I'm getting back to the peas. So if everybody has fresh peas, you can take, or if you have frozen peas, they both work. I'm going to take half of them, put them in the pot with the asparagus. And I'm just going to blanch these for about 30 seconds, less than a minute. And what blanching means really pertaining to green vegetables is we're cooking something, whether it be green beans, asparagus, in this case, it's peas and asparagus. And we're going to boil them pretty rapidly for just under a minute. And then we're going to strain them off and rinse them under ice cold water. And that's going to help lock in that really vibrant green color that we want in the end. But again, if you don't have a blanching pot and you're not wanting to boil anything, that's fine. We're going to skip that step and we're just going to use the fresh asparagus and fresh peas and just blend them from raw. It's being cooked anyways. It's totally fine. Okay, so my peas and asparagus are cooked. I'm going to take a second to strain these off. Are there any general questions, Michelle, on how we're doing with the cooking steps, or is everyone working away with their heads down?
I see a lot of busy bees cooking away right now.
Okay,
and
good.
It's great to see.
It is great to see.
I do have a direct message. Someone's just not sure if their pot with the onion and garlic is going to be tall enough for the stock. So would you say that maybe they'll just
I
need
think
to...
if you think it can fit about, ideally you want something that is a minimum about 2-liter capacity. So, you know, there's no right or wrong move here. If all you have is a large, shallow frying pan, then that's all you have. But if you want something ideal, my pot here, just to give you kind of an idea of what I'm using, is about 10 inches wide and about 5 inches deep. And this is a 4-liter pot. But if you have something much smaller like this pot, that's totally fine as well.
Awesome.
The one thing you need is you just need it to hold the entire finished recipe, because at the end we're going to be tossing it and we're going to be stirring in butter and cheese. So you want a little bit of extra room when you get to the end of the recipe step.
Okay, so yeah, if the pot with the broth is big enough, then maybe it's just about switching to that pot then to the person.
Yep. So if you have your stock pot, you can just switch pots for that into something else. But
okay. Amazing.
One
And we
more
have one
question?
more question, which is, what do you do if you don't have chicken stock?
if you don't have chicken stock, you can use vegetable stock or just water is totally fine.
They gave a thumbs up, so thank you.
Thumbs up. Okay, great. There's so much flavor in this recipe, you're not going to taste the chicken stock at all. This, with all the herbs and the cheese and the lemon, you're really not tasting the stock. So I have my asparagus and peas here. I'm going to transfer this back to a deli container. So in this deli container that I'm pureeing, I have about 3/4 of a cup of asparagus and peas. And that's combined. Maybe a little more. Let's say about a cup, half a cup of each. So I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil to this. I'm going to add some lemon juice to this, juice of about a half a lemon. And if you have this tool here or something like it, this is a microplane or a rasp or just a fine grater. I'm going to take the zest of the lemon. So I'm going to just pull that lemon zest right off it. And this lemon zest is full of flavorful oils that I want to use to flavor this risotto. So I'm going to take all of the zest off of this. And if you don't have one of these fine graters, a box grater work, even a vegetable peeler, you can just peel it off. If it's going to get pureed, it's fine. And I'll tap that into my container with the asparagus and peas. And I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the juice out of that lemon as well. And this lemon flavor in the risotto is what's going to really brighten those summer flavors up. So we're really working with a lot of the same flavors here in both the salad and the risotto. The really bright mint and the lemon and the garlic. You can see how this is all coming together to be one cohesive meal. All right, so let's get back to this. Olive oil in my puree. And this we want to get as smooth as we can. I'm going to puree this for a little bit longer than I did with the pesto, because we really want this to be a silky smooth puree to fold into that risotto.
And Cory, sorry to interrupt. I think Robert has
okay.
a question. So Robert,
Great.
if you'd
Fire
like
away.
to ask, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, it's actually Susan on Robert's iPad. My question
Hi,
is,
Susan.
did I miss a step? Is the risotto supposed to be toasting somewhere?
The rice?
Yeah.
So I haven't put my rice in my pot yet. Do you have your onions and garlic cooked?
Oh, I have my onions and garlic. Should I put the rice in there?
Perfect. So I just finished my puree, and what I'm doing right now, I was just going to walk through and put my rice in the pan. So there we go. You're way ahead of me. That's great.
Okay.
So my puree is done. So I'm done with the blending. I have my pistachio basil pesto here, and I've got my asparagus and pea risotto to fold in to my rice. So now the big moment is we're going to start cooking this risotto. So we're going to be cooking this risotto and building the salad at the same time. So if we've got a rice here, mine is nicely sweated off. There's a little bit of browning in mine, but that's okay. As long as it's not excessive and dark brown where it's going to be bitter, but it is a little more brown than I would normally take it. That's totally fine. It's one of those recipes, it's very loose. So I'm just cooking for myself and my partner, so I'm going to add 2 cups of rice. That's going to be a fairly generous portion of risotto for us. So I have my pot still on medium heat. Now, this is a very critical step as well. So a lot of people, when they make risotto, they just put all the ingredients in one pot together, stir, 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 dump. You really need to take your time with these first couple steps. The first big one is properly sweating the onion. The next one is coating this rice and really toasting it off. That's going to add a lot of depth to that finished risotto. It's going to get some nice, nutty, earthy flavors. And it also jumpstarts that cooking process. But what we're doing here, and we have to pay pretty close attention to this, once that rice goes in, you can bring your pan back up to medium heat, maybe just over medium heat. Give it a great stir. Make sure everything's coated with the oil and the onions are evenly distributed. And then we're looking to toast it off just slightly. So we want to see these rice kernels just going the slightest bit toasty brown. And you can even smell it as well. If you stick your head in the pot, you're going to start getting that toasty, nutty rice quality. So this is going to take about 3 minutes if your pan's on medium. And I'm going to take this opportunity to just go through some of the other ingredients I have in front of me, because when this risotto starts finishing, you really want to have all the other ingredients at hand. So let's see, I have my hot chicken stock. That's very important. And with that, you want to have a ladle to spoon that into the pot. I have some extra sliced raw asparagus. I have some extra raw shelled green peas.
Cory, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so I have the chicken stock boiling right now, and I
Mhm.
have onions, garlic waiting for them to kind of simmer down. I can't really do much right now. I don't know what else to do right now in the meantime. Like,
I would
I'm so,
put your rice in the pot
which one?
and start you want to put your rice in with the onions and garlic.
But onions, garlic, I don't think they're soft yet. I don't think I had them on low heat, and I'm putting it to a bit medium.
Okay,
Okay,
you can
so add
give them an extra couple of minutes. But I would say you want to add those within the next few minutes.
The rice.
So you want to add your rice to the onions within the next few minutes. So if you need to turn
Okay.
them up a little just to speed it, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, and
Because
then the choc. Yeah, go ahead.
And then you want to have your hot stock, chicken stock, ready to put in.
Okay.
And then let's just go through some of the items that are going to be finishing this risotto. So
Okay, because
cold.
I'm only
cold.
I want to do a few steps at once, so I can't do
That's
too many
okay.
at once.
That's okay, Eric. I would go ahead and put your rice in the pan and just start stirring that around and toasting it. Because once that rice goes in, you're still looking at about 20 minutes to cook it, which is, well, we've got a little bit of extra time. So if you want to wait an extra few minutes, that's just fine. So I'll slow mine down. Why don't I take mine right down? I'll pull it off the heat and I'll give everybody about 5 minutes to catch that rice up. But what Erica was saying, that if you're still cooking off the onions, she's just adding her rice now. So let's get that rice in the pan and toast it off for a few minutes. So I'll keep going ahead with letting everybody know the ingredients that I have in front of me. So this is a pretty critical part when you're cooking this kind of food. The more you can get ingredients prepared in front of you, the more clear this becomes. A lot of the times when I cook at home and I'm going through recipes in my head, I'm kind of working out of the fridge and I forget so many things by the end of it. I'm like, oh, I forgot that. And now, as much as I can, I try and get in the habit of having this pre-preparation done in front of me. And I know that's not ideal today because everybody just came onto the call and a lot of you are probably unpacking bags of groceries. But let's maybe pause for a minute or so and we'll just go through some of these things that I have in front of me. So for the risotto, I have my rice toasted off. It's with the onions. Now the next thing that's going to be going in there, I'm going to be putting in a little bit of white wine. Maybe that's not ideal for some people. Maybe you don't have it. Maybe you don't want to put white wine. That's fine. It's not necessary, but I am going to put that in mind. It adds a little bit of depth to the risotto. And then we have the raw asparagus, the raw peas. I have extra grated Parmesan that I'm going to put in. I have a little bit more lemon juice. And then I'm going to be chopping some herbs as well. So we have, also the spinach. So fairly simple, but the steps when you're making the risotto, we're going to spend about 15 minutes gradually adding stock. And as we're adding that stock and stirring, we're going to be going back and plating the salad. Now, after that final step of adding stock is done, then we're going to really quickly add the asparagus, the peas, the spinach, the cheese, the butter, and the lemon juice. And then we're going to take that off the heat, let that sit for about 30 seconds, plate it, and then plate the salad at the same time. So those are kind of the final steps. So once we start adding the stock, we're going to be moving pretty quickly. So is there anybody that needs a little extra time before we start this process?
Cory,
We also
I'm just
have
waiting
a
to.
couple
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
questions. Sorry, we just have a couple questions in the chat and then Erica will totally come back to you.
Yeah,
but-
it's fine. I can wait.
Excellent. So Angel has asked, when do you cook the scallops?
The scallops are at the end. We're going to sear those off towards the end of our risotto. So
That'll
we
be
can do, we're gonna have a separate pot on for those, or a little frying pan. We'll quickly sear them off right as we're finishing up the risotto. And those only take about a minute. That's a very quick cook.
Okay, perfect. And then we have another question from Sally. If
All
my
right.
rice is starting to stick, should I add a bit of stock?
If your rice is starting to stick? Yep, so let's do that. So I'm back on the heat with my rice. I've got my hot stock in front of me. And I will say, if you run out of stock, this might take more stock than we have. We can just use hot water to top it up. So what I'm saying is, this rice, sometimes it absorbs a lot of stock, sometimes it boils off faster than we want. If we're getting to the end and we run out of stock, but our rice isn't cooked and you still see me adding stock, just go ahead and supplement hot water for that, just right out of the tap. All right, so let's start. I've got a pot of rice. So I like to start this rice with a lot of stock. So I'll add hot stock to the hot pan, and I'm probably gonna add about maybe 1/3 of my stock at this point. It's going to cover the rice by, about 1/4 inch, but it should be boiling. So this is the point now we want to turn our pot up to just over medium heat, because we do
Cory?
want this. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, finish your instruction, and I'll ask after.
Sure. So what we're looking for here, and I'll try and hold my pot up, although it's steamy and I don't know if everybody can see it, is for the rice to be just covered with stock. And we want this rice to be constantly at what I call a rolling simmer. It's not a vigorous boil, but it's moving. There's definitely some little bubbles coming up. So adjust your heat so you're getting that. You don't want this rigorously boiling, but you do want some movement in the pot. It should be quick. It should be cooking definitely above a simmer. And with that first third addition of stock, this is where we want to do some stirring. So risotto, one of the main characteristics of a good risotto is this creamy consistency that it has. And that is made possible by stirring the rice once it goes into the pot. And this short grain arborio rice has a lot of starch on it. So when you start stirring this rice in these initial stages, you're agitating that rice, and a lot of that starch is starting to come out of the rice. And what you can probably see now is that little bit of chicken stock is starting to thicken up and take on this really creamy consistency, and that's a good thing. So that initial kind of stirring and agitating this rice, breaking a lot of that starch up, and I'll see if I can hold a spoon up, but you're starting to see this creamy sauciness around the rice. And after about 30 seconds, when most of that stock has been absorbed, that's when we're going to go ahead and add the next batch of it as well. So
Okay,
once the next one goes, sorry, go ahead, Erica.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
That's
So
okay.
the rice is not cooking, but the stock is done. So can I, since I think I don't know if the stock, if the stock will shrink in the pot, in the smaller pot I have, then I'll put the stock in. Otherwise, I'm putting the rice with the onions and the garlic in the bigger pot. So what do you think I should
Perfect. I think that you should put the rice and the onions in the large pot and transfer the stock into something else.
do? Okay.
And then,
Good.
so I have my stock's been reducing, so I'm gonna have less stock than I need to finish this. So I'm gonna top this up with some hot water right now that I'm just going to put in the pan along with my stock, just to bring that volume up. And so right now, this is where, as somebody who hasn't made risotto before, this is where it can seem a little intense. You've got this pot, the rice is in there, the stock's boiling, you don't know how fast it's cooking. So just let me assure you that it's all going to be okay. Nothing bad can happen to this as long as your rice isn't sticking to the bottom. If the stock goes dry, just add some more. If you think there's too much stock, that's totally okay. Nothing bad is going to happen at this point. I used to panic so much when I first started making risotto, and I would get the rice in the pan, and I didn't know how long it's supposed to take. I didn't know how often I was supposed to be adding stock. And eventually I just learned that it always works out every time.
We've got a great tip in the chat, Cory, that
Oh,
says,
great.
I have found that adding some wine to your glass when you add wine to the risotto consistently makes the risotto better. So just a little.
That is true. That's a good tip. I think that we should use that tip. I forgot to put my wine in, so I'm going to add it at this stage. But normally you would add it before the stock goes in because you want to cook off some of that harsh alcohol flavor. And I like that, adding wine to the glass tip. That's genius. Okay, so this is happy. This is just simmering away. Now, some people like risottos that are really dry and really sticky and really cheesy. I like mine a little loose. So I'm going to keep mine pretty brothy, and I don't stir it a whole lot after this second addition of stock goes in. I just come back to it every few minutes. And, generally the more you stir rice, the creamier it gets because the more starch comes off the rice, the more it naturally thickens. So I like mine a little bit soupy. So I'm going to just leave that alone and leave it just to cook on its own. And we'll get back to it in a couple minutes when we add the next hit of stock. But right now, let's get a couple things on the go. So I'm going to set my pan up to sear my scallops. And with these, I'm just going to use a small frying pan. So I'll just have that slowly heating up on the side. And these scallops, I don't know if everybody has scallops, but scallops are a funny little muscle. And there's another piece that you should take off. There's something called an adductor muscle. And I don't know if everybody has the same scallops, but mine did. On the side of the scallop, you'll see a little, oh, can you hold one of those up? Angel, can you pick one up and move it around close to the camera? You see a little white muscle on there. On the scallop itself is a muscle, but maybe it almost looks like a little tag that you can peel away. Is there anything that might look like that? These might be cleaned. I don't know which one. They look cleaned. Okay, so if there looks like on the side of the scallop, the adductor muscle, it would be like a little tab of flesh that you can just pull away. If it has that, you can peel it off. It's edible as well, so don't be fussed. Sometimes when you cook that part, it gets a little bit tough.
Cory, sorry, we also had a question of when do you take out the asparagus that you've blanched?
Oh, you can take that out now and chill that under ice water. So that blanched asparagus, that would be for the second puree that's going in the risotto. So that's getting pureed with the some of the herbs, the peas, and the asparagus as well. So that is puree number 2. So I have one deli container that I pureed. I have the pesto, the pistachio pesto for the salad. In the other one, I have a puree of olive oil, my asparagus, and some peas that I'm going to use for the risotto. But I'll say, if you didn't do that step and you didn't know that step was part of the process, you don't have to do that step. You can just make a straightforward pea and asparagus risotto with all these lovely herbs in it. It's going to be just as good. This is just a little tip that I do with my risottos at home, but it is not at all necessary. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I only have the one pistachio pesto, I don't know what that second one is, it's okay. It's okay. But you might have a little extra time to do it. It's just another creamy element that I add to my risottos just to boost that flavor. You know, for instance, if I'm making a winter risotto with butternut squash in it, then I'll make a puree out of butternut squash to add to that risotto in the end. It's also something I like doing so I don't have to add so much butter to get that creamy richness at the end. All right, so I'm going to taste my rice actually, just to see how far along we are. So mine's still quite crunchy. I can tell by eating mine that it's going to take about 12 more minutes to cook. And mine needs a little bit of, I'll hold my pot up.
Oh, sorry,
Mine
Cory.
needs-
Angel has her hand up. Angel, do you want
great.
to unmute and ask the question?
Go ahead, Angel.
Unmute. Yay.
There we
Okay,
go.
so I'm just catching up with everything. My question was for the salad. I haven't started the salad yet.
So the salad, we don't.
Yeah, salad.
The only thing I have done for my salad is I made the pistachio dressing, and that's it.
Okay. I think I've done that already. Yeah. I've already done
Yeah.
that.
Did you make one puree or 2 purees, Angel?
I've only made one so far.
Just that one, and then that's okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about the second one
I
at
just
all.
had a question about this being pureed. I haven't done this before.
The asparagus.
Yeah.
So with that, is that blanched? Is that blanched? That
Yeah.
looks blanched.
That is.
That's great. Did you soak that in ice water?
Yeah, I did.
Good for you. That's a pro move. Nice job. So you can now, Angel, you can slice that into pieces about this big. So these are about 1/4 inch
Okay.
thick and on a diagonal, on a bias by about 3/4 inches long. So we're going to add those into the asparagus risotto at the end.
Oh, okay.
I have a quick question. I have the risotto. It's starting to brown a bit. I have the onions and garlic in a bigger pot. I
Now-
have another pot. What am I doing?
Okay. Are you adding your stock yet to the risotto?
Oh, am I doing that now?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you want to add about 1/3 of your stock just to cover the rice. And at that point, you want to start.
I measured out 6 cups in one pot.
That's perfect. Yeah. So add approximately 2 cups of that.
So 2 cups of
and-
the stock.
Yeah, roughly. What you want to do is cover the rice with
Okay, so-
stock in this initial stage. So you want this initial stage. I'm going to slow mine down. I'll just take mine right off the heat and let everybody come up to speed. So it's about 7:15 now. Ideally, we have finished risotto by, let's say, 7:30. So is there anybody else who doesn't have their rice on the stove yet in the pot with stock being added to it?
So good.
That's the, I'm in my kitchen, I'm smelling all the herbs, the lemon, the garlic. These are some of my favorite summer smells. So
Right now, I just have the onions and garlic in the pot with the risotto. I haven't added anything else. Am I supposed to add
okay, and do you have your stock?
the stock?
Have you started to add stock
now.
yet? Okay, perfect. So once that stock's in, it should be at a rolling simmer, a little less than a boil. Angel, you had the lemon at the end of the risotto. In this initial step, it should just be the onions, the garlic cooked off with your rice toasted, and adding wine and stock or just stock. And that is going to take about 15 minutes before it goes in. So you have wine. Oh, don't use vinegar.
Oh, I don't have wine, so
then it's not important at all. Just stock.
Okay, so I need the wine vinegar. Okay.
Yeah, vinegar will make it too sour, and we're adding the lemon juice at the end, so that's going to be that acidic brightness that we're looking for. But just stock. In that step, adding the stock. So we're going to keep adding stock every couple minutes, and I'll show you what mine looks like here. Mine's about maybe halfway done cooking, and this is the consistency of it. So it's a bit soupy. It's starting to absorb a lot of the stock, but we don't really get the full finished texture of this until the last steps, when we're adding the cheese and the butter and the last bit of stock. That's when we're going to start stirring it really vigorously to build up that creaminess and emulsify that starch and liquid and some of the butter. So I'll pull mine off, and we'll start talking about what's happening with this salad right now. All right, so I have some peas, and my peas are already blanched. I had some frozen peas. If you have frozen peas, they can go on just raw, thawed out. If your peas need blanching, does everybody have frozen, thawed out peas, or some people using fresh peas? Can anyone give me some insight?
Sorry.
Sure.
I have the so the risotto. I have the chicken stock that's already done. I just have leftovers. I have the chicken stock covering the risotto with the rice and onions and garlic. Now, what am I doing next?
That's it. You're just gently stirring it. So now we're going to go back. So I put a small pan on.
Blanching or blending or anything like that. It's a lot, and I can't do it one person.
Yeah, that's okay. So Erica, did you make your initial pesto puree?
Nothing yet, because I have been trying to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and you don't have to do any blending. This one, if you want to just hand chop it or even tear it up.
Yeah, I have a blender.
Okay, so if you want to put in into your blender,
so
we're going to make your.
What am I at? Okay, so I have a hand blender. So what am I?
Yeah. So we're going to make your salad dressing together. Okay.
How about how about? Sorry.
So in your salad dressing, this is a pesto vinaigrette. So we're going to put.
Okay. How about the puree? So is there anything that's
let's just focus on your salad dressing.
I haven't done anything in the salad yet. I just want to do this.
That's okay. So don't worry about the puree for the risotto because that one's not necessary. But we do want to make your salad dressing puree, your pesto vinaigrette.
Salad yet, so.
Okay. So this is.
How high should my heat be for the
medium heat? Medium heat for the risotto.
I have it on medium, between medium and about 6.
That's totally fine. As long as it's not rigorously boiling, you're okay. And risotto is very forgiving. So the only tip that I'll give you is just don't let this pot run totally dry, because that's when it'll start sticking. If you can't get to stirring it, just keep adding more stock and water and letting it cook.
Stock, then I can do it.
Okay, so you want to start adding your stock into that pot?
I did already. I have done that.
Okay, then you should be off to a good start. So if you go to the recipe for the salad dressing, now this one I'll just be really quick with you so we can go back and get it. But in your blender, you want to add a handful, and don't worry about measuring, just a handful of basil.
Yeah.
A small handful of pistachios.
I have to get everything. I have it.
Okay. I'm just gonna verbalize this to you.
Okay.
Some olive oil just to cover those, about a half of a cup. And sorry, here is Michelle. You're good to prize draw. Yes, you are. And a little bit of salt in there and some of the grated Parmesan. You're going to blend it up. So what you're looking for is a consistency that's like a creamy salad dressing. If you have an allergy to nuts, just simply omit the nuts altogether, and it's still going to be delicious. That's a good pointer. Not everybody can eat nuts. Again, if there's any allergies or dietary restrictions at all, just omit.
I am for that, Alexis.
Okay, so what you're looking for is this kind of bright green herby puree, and you just want there to be enough lemon juice and enough cheese and a bit of salt to kind of carry this dressing through. It's just a green herbaceous salad dressing. All right, are there any other questions that I should be addressing here, Michelle?
I think we're good.
Okay, so now if some people are catching up, maybe I'll go ahead and finish. I'll plate my salad just so everyone knows what we're going for. Now, does everybody have these heads of Boston lettuce or butter lettuce? Is this what everybody had? Something that looks like this? Is that an iceberg that I'm seeing? Malcolm, do you want to hold up what you have for lettuce so I can see it? I see angels. That's a head of iceberg. Is that iceberg lettuce? Okay. So if you want to go ahead and just if you want to go ahead and peel just some of these big leaves off, and we're just going to pile those onto the center of a plate like a little nest.
Cory, am I doing the dressing now? Like pesto vinaigrette for the salad?
Sorry, go ahead, Erica.
You said the pesto vinaigrette. Am I doing that now for the salad?
You're making your pesto vinaigrette. Yes. That's the only puree you're going to make. Just the one. Hi, here's my guy. He wants to say hi. You want to say hi?
Oh, how old is he?
Hi. He's going to be 5.
Wow.
Next on Thursday, he's going to be 5. He likes that smell. Thank you.
My risotto is like starting to not stick, but like.
So you want to keep adding. Yeah, you want to keep adding stock and gently stirring it.
Okay, yeah. All right. Sure.
All right. So this salad is really easy. The star of this salad is this pesto vinaigrette, but composing the salad itself is quite simple, and it's something you can do a few minutes in advance. So I've just taken, a fairly large shallow bowl, and I've laid out all my leaves like a little flower, wide open, big leaves. You don't really have to do much else to it. Just peel the leaves off and arrange them kind of cups up to catch all that really nice vinaigrette. And I'll go ahead and kind of build this right up. So does everybody have a ball of burrata? Was that part of everyone's kit? Rebecca's showing me the burrata. Do you want to hold one of those balls up, Rebecca? So that's perfect. So burrata is really, it's like buffalo mozzarella. So the skin is buffalo mozzarella, and inside it's stracciatella, this really nice creamy cheese. So it's a really soft, pillow-like pouch of deliciousness. So I'm without doing anything to that at all, I'm just gonna take my burrata and I'm gonna set it directly on top of my lettuce leaves. 1 step, 2 step, lettuce in, right on top. And with that, now I want to get back to my risotto. So I'm kind of happy where this is at now. This is only going to get a couple other things. This is going to get some sliced up asparagus if I still have some left. It's going to get a lot of my peas. It's going to get some pistachios, and it's going to get my dressing. So this is pretty well done. So why don't we get back to stirring our risotto? So everybody should have risotto that's about halfway or just beyond that now. Maybe 5 minutes from cooking. Now, as you're cooking, it's really important to taste the food. So you're doing that and with the rice, maybe grab a small spoon, test some of the rice. So what you're looking for here is the seasoning. Is it salty enough for you? Keeping in mind, it's going to get some cheese at the end, so that's going to bring up that level of salt. But really, it's about the doneness. And for me, the perfect risotto is something that's got a little bit of toothiness in the center, what we call al dente. And what I mean with that is a little bit of bite, a slight crunchy center. If you don't like that and you prefer something soft and luscious, then cook yours a little further. But I can tell you from tasting mine, it's about 6 minutes from being done, which puts us at 7:30. That's a pretty good time. So I'm going to keep cooking mine. I actually had it off the heat for a while. So I'm going to make sure I've got some extra hot stock.
Cory, so if mine's risotto after that means it's done, right? I want it. I don't
I'm
want it
sorry.
Soft, but I don't want it too soft. But I want it soft. Like I don't want it like mushy. But
You want it soft. So this is something where it's to your own personal style. It's like pasta. Some people like really firm al dente pasta. Some people like very soft pasta. So this, for me, the perfect risotto has a tiny bit of bite in the center of it. So that's what I'm looking for in mine. So I know from where mine is at that it's about 5 minutes away still. So this is where you want to really take care of how much stock you're putting in the final 5 minutes of cooking. Because if you put too much stock in and your rice is really soupy, it's not going to have time to cook out and evaporate. So this is where, if you think you're getting close, add your stock in smaller quantities. Now, the finish consistency that I like when I get near the end, before I add my butter, cheese, and my flavorings, I want it to look like a rice pudding consistency or like an oatmeal. So it's a little bit soupy. If you put it in a bowl, it's going to spread out. It's not firm, but you want it to be kind of swimming in the sauce, and you want the rice to be, you know, individual, where you can kind of see it floating around in the sauce that you've created with the starch and the stock. Again, this is a personal style. Some people like it really tight, but I'm going to let mine cook out a little bit. So I'll try and hold my pot up so you can see the movement in it. It's still quite soft and soupy. That's what I'm looking for. That's how I like my risotto. I don't like it to sit up in one solid mass when it's done cooking.
Sorry, Erica, we have a couple of questions that came in through the chat. So if you just want to hold yours for a sec, I'm just going to ask those two questions. So one was a little while ago about the dressing, and it was, if you don't use nuts, will it change the taste and texture of the dressing? This was the person asking about allergies.
You know, I get this a lot in the restaurant, right? I just omit nuts. Now, pistachios, I like for their kind of nutty sweetness that it adds. It also adds a nice green color to it. But for a dressing like this, it's not going to compromise it at all. What you're going to get is still a really fresh, vibrant dressing. And, you know, really the pistachios on the end is a crunch. You know, if you still want that, you can use pumpkin seeds. You can use, you know, puffed rice, any kind of crunchy garnish you want to use. But omitting the nuts, you're not going to have, you won't be suffering. Let's say that. So just take them out and don't worry about making a substitution. If you have pumpkin seeds or something like that, or another crunchy salad garnish, I would just go ahead and make that change.
Great. And then the other question was, are we just putting the ball of burrata in the center of the lettuce? Is that all?
That's right. That's all we're doing. And then when we serve this, we're going to cut it down the middle, open it up, sprinkle some salt and olive oil and the dressing in there. And that's really, you know, this salad is really about that burrata. And it's such a simple, beautiful ingredient. The key to this salad is don't mess with it. Just let the beautiful ingredients speak for themselves. Okay, so I'm going to put my pan on for my scallops. And if you're cooking by yourself like Erica, there's a lot of pans on the go. So if you want to save your scallops and eat those for dinner tomorrow night, Erica, feel free to do that. If you want to maybe sear your scallops at the end, you can go to that. But you know, if you are by yourself, adding another pan is probably a little too much, a little too crowded on the stove. I'll go ahead and do mine for those who want to do the scallops, but it's not essential to the dish. This is just a little bonus. You know, this risotto is meant to be eaten on its own and beautifully, and these scallops were just a little bit of an add-on. So feel free to just keep those for a later time if it's a little too hectic in the kitchen.
Angel, you have a question? Sorry, I just saw a hand up. Feel free to unmute if you have a question, Angel.
Okay. When does the spinach go in?
Spinach. So in the risotto, the last minute is where everything goes in. So after the rice is cooked and the stock is absorbed properly, we're going to be adding quickly all of the last elements to the rice, which I'm going to be going through I'm going to be going through that in 1 minute.
And then I had a question about the salad dressing.
Sure.
Wait, so do we like puree this or something?
Yes, you want to be pureeing that with some olive oil and lemon juice to use as the salad dressing.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish my risotto, and then I can get back to a lot of questions. So my rice is nicely cooked. It's still a bit firm. It's pretty soupy and soft. Now, this is the part where we're going to move pretty fast. So I'm going to add in a handful of my raw asparagus at this point. I'm going to add in a handful of my peas, and I'm going to give this about 30 seconds to cook in there, because that heat is going to get through really quickly because my asparagus is cooked or is cut pretty thin. So I'll add that, and once 30 seconds passes, then I'll start adding my cheese and my butter and a lot of my herbs and my spinach and my lemon juice to this. And then at that point, it's when it's ready to eat, and it doesn't really want to hold for that much longer. But the rest of the salad, let's bring that. So there's a lot of final steps here. So I appreciate that this is probably pretty rushed in a lot of your homes, but you know, even if you're not done at the end of this call, just kind of take a breath, regroup, and then all you're trying to do is just finish the rice off and garnish the salad up. So if we run out of time on the call, don't be stressed. It's a lot of work that I asked you to do today with me. We try to accomplish a lot of things, and especially if you're cooking by yourself, it can be pretty overwhelming. So don't sweat the small stuff, as they say. So we've got my rice that I'm stirring with my peas and asparagus in it for another 30 seconds. Now let's get back to this burrata. So my burrata was in the center, so I just took a knife and I made a bit of a slit right through the middle. And that just opens up that skin, and you're going to see this really beautiful creamy interior exposed. And with that, you just take your fingers and just spread it open. And this is where you want to get your seasoning inside. So I'm going to take a little bit of my salt, and I'm going to season the inside of that burrata. Just a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of pepper. And I'm going to take some olive oil. Squeeze that right over top of it as well, right in the center of that burrata. So salt, pepper, olive oil, just to start that off. And now to really complicate things, I'll be jumping over to my scallops. So I have a hot pan here. I'm going to put my seasoned scallops into. I'll put those straight down on the heat, but scallops, again, I'll say if you're not feeling comfortable putting another pan on the heat at this step, just save these for after the call, and you can go ahead and sear them off. Now these, you just do a little bit of olive oil or butter or a combination of, salt and pepper on both sides. And you want to cook them on about 1 minute on each side until they're lightly golden brown. And that's it. It's a very easy addition. Okay, so this is where it's getting jumpy. I'm going back and forth between 3 different dishes now, just to make it exciting for you. Now my risotto I have, now my asparagus are cooked, my peas are cooked. Now it's time to really get moving on these last steps. So I'm adding what looks like, and this is about a 3-person batch, I'm adding about a 1/4 cup of butter roughly. And again, this is add however much you like. So that's going to go in. About a 1/2 cup of grated cheese is going to go in. My spinach leaves, about a big handful, also going in. And I'm going to add a little squeeze of lemon juice as well. And with that, now you want to start stirring pretty rigorously. And this can be on the heat or off the heat, but what we're trying to do here is really stir that butter in as fast as possible, because we want that to emulsify. And what that means is this fats kind of get trapped in the water molecules and create this really creamy finish on the risotto. What you don't want to do is just throw your butter in or throw melted butter in, because that'll give it a split oily quality, which we're not looking for.
Sorry to interrupt,
So,
Cory. I just wanted to do a
sure.
quick reminder that we're going to do the draw at the end so that we
Okay.
don't mess up the cooking flow. So don't leave before we do the draw. Just a reminder. Stick around.
Great. And so these are incorporated. At the very end, I'm going to stir in about a 1/2 cup of my puree. And again, if you don't have that asparagus and pea puree made, don't worry about it. It's not going to affect the quality. It's just going to be a little bit of a brighter, more green colored risotto if you have that. So mine is done here. So you can see that last step doesn't take much time at all. So I'll show you what I have in the end. And I'll show you how I like my risotto. So this is, some would say this is very soupy. So it's like a soft oatmeal texture. And with that, I'm going to check it for seasoning. Very good. Now I'm going to plate it. So I'm going to plate mine in a bit of a deep plate. And if you have a wide rim bowl, that works as well. But you want something fairly wide so you can properly garnish this. And it's not a big, deep bowl of risotto that'll keep cooking and steaming. You want it to be laying pretty flat. At least that's how I like mine. So I'm going to shake this out for the whole width of this plate. And I'll put a little drizzle of olive oil on this. I'll rip up some of my basil leaves and some of my mint leaves. Sprinkle those over top. And of course, a fairly generous amount of Parmigiano. And I would say this is a very quintessential summer risotto. We've got all of these big, bright, bold flavors that we associate with summer. You know, the peas, the asparagus, mint, basil, peas, lemon. So, you know, I'll get back to these scallops, even though I don't know how many people got to these. Now, normally I wouldn't put scallops on this risotto. Risotto is perfect on its own. This is just a little bonus to give you a kind of a luxe element to go along with your meal. So don't feel like you have to serve these on. I personally would not add these to the risotto. I would keep them on the side and just have a little special side component. The scallops are done. I have my salad that let's get back to. I'll set my risotto off to the side. With the salad now, I have some chopped up pistachios that I'll sprinkle over. And I have my peas. And you can see how casual this is. It's just everything on top, and wherever it lands is beautiful. And that's kind of my philosophy around cooking. Food should just look like it naturally fell onto the plate like that. So you can see there's no right or wrong way of finishing this salad. Just it should be just a natural array of you know, these beautiful summer ingredients. Now I like a bit of chilies. This isn't in the recipe, but I have some preserved chilies in my fridge, and I'm going to put it on here as well for a little added kick. And then I have my pistachio dressing that I'm going to just flood over the top of this burrata. I'm going to use, for this amount, I'm probably going to use about maybe a third of a cup, maybe a little bit more, making sure everything's covered. And if you have extra dressing, you can save that in your fridge. But I have this finished salad. My scallops are cooking. You know, this is kind of a meal in and of itself as well. You know, but we've got a very kind of rich, beautiful, vibrant summer meal in front of us now. And so I'm finished. So I'm happy to answer any questions, walk some people through the final steps. How are we feeling there, Michelle?
I'm not seeing any new questions. How are we
That
doing,
means
Zoe, Alexis, and Erica, our helpers?
Struggling very much. Struggling. Only got the risotto done. I've got nothing else done.
That's okay.
That's
okay.
amazing that you got the risotto done.
But
you
the thing
have
is,
it.
the thing is, I'm not sure. I haven't had anything else. I'm not sure. Like it's soft. I keep adding broth, but it's like getting mushy. But it's not soft.
It's okay. So let's add your peas and asparagus at this point.
Okay, I haven't done anything with asparagus. I haven't done nothing. I haven't.
That's okay. Then if you want to just add your peas, then Erica, and that's totally fine. But if at the end of it you've got a beautiful, so you can add your peas straight in there, maybe about 2 handfuls.
How much am I adding?
You can, about 2 handfuls in there. And you can stir those in, and then we want to get your butter and some grated cheese in to finish it.
Okay, I'm not sure if it's soft
So
enough yet.
it's okay. It's you can always add.
Yeah.
Is it at the point where you think you'd be close to eating it? Or would you be comfortable eating it at that doneness, or it's still very crunchy? Because it'll be. Thank you, Sally.
It's soft, but it's soft.
So
but
keep
it's
in mind,
not-
so when you're stirring in the cheese and the butter, it will continue to cook in that final step. So you want it to be a little underdone from what you'd normally like it at.
Because it's soft, but it's not like soft. So I guess if I add cheese and butter, that'll make it more.
You're ready to add. You are ready to add.
Okay. So
Oh, I just saw Martha's plate. That looks amazing.
Oh, good. Yeah. If anybody wants to hold
Wow.
up some finished plates, I would love to see them.
You're making me hungry, everyone. Sally, I see. Oh, it's beautiful risotto.
how much
Jennifer
cheese,
salad.
cheese and butter? So like, okay, I haven't really
As much as you want to put in. So butter,
butter and cheese.
you know, I put in about 2 tablespoons of butter for mine, but that's going to feed a few people. And cheese, you want to put in about a half a cup of grated cheese.
Like, is this enough? Like I have a little container.
I can't see yours, but a couple of handfuls. So Erica, when even if you're going a little bit after this call, you can really, you know, kind of take the time at the end of it to modify and taste and stir in a little more cheese and a little more butter to get it creamy. So don't feel like you've got to race to get this in a plate right now, because you can definitely kind of work at your own pace from here.
Yeah.
Another great question came in. They're going to be eating this tomorrow. What's the best way to reheat risotto?
Ooh, the best way to reheat. So you can put it back in a pot and rewarm it with a little bit of hot water, just stirring it until it comes back up, and then maybe adding a touch more cheese and a touch more butter just to get that creaminess. Or a microwave is totally fine.
Fantastic. All right, keep your questions coming. You know what? I think now might be a great time for the prize draw before we lose anyone. You
Yes.
don't want to miss this. Angel, that looks incredible. Good job.
Let's see. Oh, very
Oh.
nice. Very nice.
Fabulous. All right. This is great. So we're going to do the prize draw. Thank you for your patience. Brittany, please, over to you. Brittany's going to be calling out the winner's name. So good luck to everyone.
Good luck,
Mhm.
everyone.
Okay, good luck.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's see who wins. Remember, there's going to be 3 winners. Okay. So spinning, spinning. Who do we got? Number 1. No. Try this again. I don't know why we have all these blanks. So unnecessary. Amanda, are you here?
Are you here, Amanda?
If you're here, please take yourself off mute so we can hear your voice. Amanda. No, I'm not seeing her. Okay, we're gonna do it again.
Keep going.
We're gonna keep on going.
Oh, getting close.
Stacy, are you here? Stacy, if you're here, let us know. If not, we're moving on. Here we go, here we go. I love the chairs. Vicky, are you here? I thought I saw her name there.
I see her name in the list.
But is she in the room?
We're here, says Vicky.
Okay,
Awesome,
Vicky, you're our
congrats.
first winner. Gonna put your name down. Awesome. Next, let's see who we got.
Did we unmute?
Yes, you're on mute.
Okay.
Lisa, do we have Lisa?
No.
So we have to unmute.
Lisa, are you in the room?
What the hell?
Oh, I hear a voice. Who is that? Michelle, can you see who that was?
I
Lisa, if you're
can't
here,
see
let us
that,
know.
sorry. So if folks want to try putting their hands up or popping in the chat or unmuting any of these ways to let us know that you're here.
Yes, please. Is Lisa here? No? Going once, going twice? Sold.
Off.
Let's go again.
There you go. Wait.
Mine. I just want to see how they end.
Ashley Rathburn, are you here? Ashley, if you're here, let us know. Going once, going twice.
Hey, we're here.
Oh,
Wow, yay.
you're here?
We're here.
Woo! Okay,
Congrats.
Ashley. Awesome. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Yeah, thank you.
All right, and for our final winner, let's see who we got. Everyone, fingers crossed. It might be you. And another blank. Blank. If I was you, I would say, hey, that's me.
I feel like we need a drum roll.
Beverly, are you still here?
I'm here. Thank you.
All
Yay!
right.
You.
Awesome. Well, we have our 3 winners, Vicky, Ashley, and Beverly. We will be in contact to get you your gifts. Congratulations.
Thank you
Fabulous.
so much. It's been wonderful.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Michelle and Cory, back over to you.
Excellent. Well, I did have a question before Malcolm and I wrap. Cory, where can people get your cookbook? Where can they find it?
Ooh, good question. I didn't know we were going to be plugging me today. You can get them at Indigo, some of your neighborhood bookstores, on Amazon. Thank you for asking.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. Congrats to all our winners. I don't want to keep everyone. I will get you to your
I'll say,
donations, but
and for all the winners, somebody from Lights will share my email, and you can email me directly for your flock meals.
perfect. And that's going to be Brittany. And Brittany's also who you can send your fabulous food photos to. We want to see what you're eating and share them widely. So Brittany will pop her email address in the chat, and you can send her any photos that you have. And with that, I'd like to welcome back Malcolm just to have some parting words for us. So thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for everyone for joining us for tonight. That was Cory. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for guiding us through this.
Malcolm, I appreciate that.
Michelle, thanks for keeping us on track. And I think with that, I think it's time to go and eat our dinner. So thanks again, everybody.
I started. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so happy that you cooked along with me. That was a riot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Cory.
Okay, bye everyone. Thank you so much. I hope I see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Happy eating, everyone.
Yes.
Feel free to share your pics with me
Enjoy.
if you'd
Please
like. I would
share all your
love to see
pictures.
some.
It was great.
Okay, bye guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.